Thank you for coming. I hope you grabbed the coffee, because it's the third talk of the morning, and it will go until 12:20. So my name is Nathalie, and I'm a usability person at Bonitasoft. My purpose is really, really simple. The talk is called Non-Negotiable Usability. It's a radical concept. So I would like to explain why I had to come up with such a radical concept from my experience. And maybe you can identify with some situations. And then explain what I mean by non-negotiable usability, what's the purpose of this thing, and hopefully you will get things to take away with you. So basically, it's one goal, it's one team, it's a checklist of items, it's a process, and a toolbox. So just before we start, I'd like to know who you are. Among you guys, are there people not coding for UI? Not for end users? Okay, guys, just a few. Good. So are there usability people in the house? Yes, a few. Good. Then let's talk after this. And because this is something I will present that is really built as we go at Bonitasoft. So I would like feedback if possible. Have you ever worked with some users? Real users? Good, real good. So we'll see how we can continue doing so. I've been doing usability for a few years now, first as a cognitive scientist, then in-house in a software company working on voice user interfaces, then spent 10 years as a UX user experience consultant, grabbing some experience still, and then as a usability specialist at Bonitasoft now for 3 years. So what we do at Bonitasoft, simply, we offer solutions for enterprises to manage their processes and be more efficient and more traceable thanks to processes. Why we're here in the Eclipse conference is that our studio, our process and a business data modeler is done with Eclipse. Then we've added another developer for UIs, for end users, because the goal is to provide business applications customized, running on the top of processes. Enough said. At Bonitasoft, the Bonitasofters are passionate humans with substantial egos. We all are, and it's good for involvement. We think we're quite clever, which is good because then we have self-confidence. We like to enjoy yourself, and it's good for motivation. And some of us are a little shy, or maybe, I don't know if it's readable. Yes. Or maybe we just have some temper, right? Some developers think they really need to code and not take care about the outside world. But it's changing, and it's better and better. So we have space for improvement, and which is good, is that we all pursue the same goal, create a product that rocks. We really want our product to find success. It's not really Bonitasoft specialty, I'm sure, but this is really boiling up for the team. But we have tension points around UX. So how can we stop debating about UX and really make it work within the team? So this is a summary of what I heard through this experience as a usability person. Everyone has common sense. Do we really need somebody to think about usability? UX is an optional polish on top of the technical base. And then it's an additional constraint when time is short. So I'm sure you can rely to those sentences, you too. So common sense and optional polish, why? We can do with common sense. We don't have a UX person, we don't involve users because we think what we do will be usable by others. So we have the specifications, maybe a proof of concept, a working alpha release, a bug-free beta, as much as it can be, and then we end-to-end test, and then we release. And I've seen that in some of my customers when I was a consultant, and it didn't work, because you cannot think as other users as yourself, even if users are also developers. They don't have the same point of view. So it's a lot of rework after it's delivered, and it's sad, and it hurts egos a lot. So if you code for someone else than yourself, you need to think about user experience. It's very simple. So okay, UX is a job in itself. It's a needed polish on top of the technical base, and it can still be seen as an additional constraint when time is short. Why would it be a constraint? Maybe because what we read the most about usability is the principles. It's a list of principles. It's really difficult to understand, and maybe only UX people can say what it means in a UI to have those principles applied, right? So it's okay. You can leave it to the usability person to take care of it and just work with this person. Then you will learn as you go on real examples, and you will get better at applying those principles. So it's not a problem if you have somebody to guide you through the process of knowing what these principles mean. But I think it's not a constraint at all. It's a purpose. It's the team's purpose to build a good user experience. What you want is to make your users, whoever they are, succeed on all use cases of theirs. And the success happens because you learn how to use it, you avoid and recover from errors, you learn how to be efficient with this solution, any application, and you enjoy the ride. So this is a usable way of getting this in the memory. It's really about having users succeed, nothing else. And the user will succeed because the code is good, but also because the experience is good. It's a common purpose. So this makes your work worth it. It makes its value real. You create the perceived quality. There is the code quality, but then how it's perceived by its user will make the success of your product, right? So, okay, we can all be part of UX if we work together towards this goal. It's a needed polish on top of the technical base, and it's a team purpose. Still, time is short. So why is it considered as a polish on top of a technical base? As a consultant, I was often called as a post-disaster relief, meaning that after the feature or the product is developed, then you hire an external consultant for 10 days, and you want this person to stamp, to validate the usability is good on your product. So I called it a disastrous post-disaster relief, because just adding this usability validation at the end of your process can only lead to this. You will have a nice, Excel file with 200 lines. The risk is between 1 and 4. The usability risk is assessed, and maybe at some point you will need to take decisions of what the hell am I going to do with this. So it's not a right way of doing this. It's really disastrous because then usability comes against the development team. That's really insane to be integrating usability like this, because it's so difficult then to integrate it. So again, it's a wall. So it shouldn't be a polish. It should be an integrated layer. Then time is short, so what can we do? It doesn't work if we don't have a usability person or take care of the users, again. It doesn't work if it's called just at the risk queue at the end, so let's try to integrate the usability person in the team while time is short to develop and release features. So the UX person is an internal influencer in the development team, and why do I say influencer? Is that, for example, take this example of this nice shirt. It's a really great fabric, and it's nice shape, right? So for a shirt, the raw material is made by the textile worker, and then the shirt is tailored by somebody whose job it is to make it nice and pretty at the end. Well, for a piece of software, the clean, smart, and bug-free code is done by the developer, and then the useful and usable product is made by the developer. So the only thing the UX person can say is give advice and try to lead the team towards more usability. But when time is short, the UX design is the last to be taken into account when the roadmap is dense, for example. We first start the new features with the technical feasibility. We need to have a POC to be reassured that what we think as a feature that the customer's needs can be doable. Then when it's doable, we think about how it should look like and what the UX should be. But doing this, we already have restrained what the customers would like to see. So feasibility of what? Technical feasibility of what? Nothing has been defined yet. So what do we want in details? So it's like running in the morning mists. It's my favorite image. We have run a feasibility assessment, but we don't really know to do what. And also UX improvement is last in the sprint planning. You know, working with agile methods, you meet, you have a backlog of a certain amount of things, and I remember precisely having a line drawn with new features, bug to fix, and then usability improvements below the line. Oh, sorry, it will not fit in the next sprint, because it's not considered as something important, really. But some bugs are less important than people getting stuck in the front of a screen. Really, it's important to notice that some bugs are light, and some usability problems are very heavy. If the user is not at success when using your application, it's a really heavy usability bug. And maybe we can compromise on what to deal with first. So we build a functional depth, not working and improving the user experience of your application. And last but not least, a UX person can be seen as a silly crusader against the team manager. For example, you hear other features are in the roadmap for this release. Release date is fixed. The time spent on the feature is enough now. You cannot fight till you get the perfect UX. We only have limited resources, and all of this is true. You have to let go, Nathalie. Stop it now. We cannot work on this usability for this feature anymore. So it's just based on time and density of the roadmap. It's regardless of the value we will deliver by releasing this feature to our users. How can I let go? So how can we make this work, right? We have the same constraints, we have the same goal. We need to find a way of making working smooth. Because then, when we don't do usability enough, then the feature is released, and then feedback is coming, and sometimes it's not good feedback. And it's more rework than what could have been if we have done usability first. So again, it's a wall, and it builds frustration among the team. So some usability people are fighting for UX. There's this cool website that is called Fight for UX or Brave UX. And they really go pushy on how to convince you guys to make it usable, because it's a common purpose. So the UX can really become a person-to-person struggle, and we want to avoid this. So time is still short. What can we do? So the good news is, having hit a wall, the next logical step is not to bang our heads against it. We want to be out of this problem. Now, some facts that have been found on the Brave UX website. 68% of users give up because they think you don't care about them. It goes to this point. They don't care about me. 50% development time is about fixing avoidable issues in terms of usability. 97% of users cite ease of use as the main factor in selecting enterprise applications. And by 2020, it was a prediction in 2015, customer experience will overtake price and product as the important brand differentiator. There is no other way than spend time on the UX. So, with sensible goals, a team can gather. I like you too. We're not the same, but we're one. Okay. Part of the answer already exists and proved right. It's called the user-centered design. So it's focusing on the users, but it doesn't help solving this time issue. So now I'm calling on the developer nature of heroes. In Bonita Soft, we call our first layer of users heroes. So it's true. You make it happen, really. I can only influence, and you make it happen. So it's a nice point of view to consider as you are doing the right things to make something happen in the company, right? So the qualities of a hero are a solid logic, sound logic, a sense of responsibility. You have empathy as a hero, you have courage, and you're humble. So all of this we can use to guide you to more usability and a good user experience. But you're no superhero, and I'm not superhero either. We cannot read in users' minds, so we still need to work on gathering things from the users before we even code. So that's what it takes, the solid logic, the sound logic. So the team needs data from the field and some thresholds so that we turn usability into a Boolean system. Either the feature is good to release or it's not, and we need to rework it. And it's okay, there might be some other features in the roadmap, but this one is not ready. We cannot give up on this one. So the feedback on non-negotiable items are considered as bugs. Now, from 2 months on in BonitaSoft, we have usability bugs because we don't comply with the shortlist we're going to talk about. So it will not be a perfect UI. Okay, I will not be a crusader anymore, but it's good enough UI, and we checked. So it's non-negotiable, and this is what we're working on now. So it's a goal, the non-negotiable usability. Have users success when using a feature, a new feature, or a new product. The team is, we want to be proud of what we release. No wall anymore. We play part in this goal all together, and we work with data from the field and thresholds to avoid those endless discussions and tension. So from the list I've shown you before, we don't really take care of the be efficient. It's very important to be efficient when you use something, but this can be negotiable, and it's difficult to make it a Boolean decision. Enjoy, of course, if you work with a graphical designer, it's the best, right? We don't have graphical designer in-house, so for now, what's non-negotiable is the success of the user, which can happen even if the UI is not wow graphically. Then we don't address all our personas, all our profiles of users. We have the VIP personas we have created, and we don't work on all the use cases. We try to gather basic use cases. For example, if you import something, really try to also think at exporting things. We have some features in the product today where you can import but not export. And then some users come back to us saying, how come you did not think of it? Well, we did not think of it because we did not really work with users first, and we didn't think in the flow of what we thought as being the good flow, it was important. So this checklist will be to learn and is to be learned today for the developers in BonitaSoft. So who are the VIP personas for us? We need to create and know your personas. Succeed on the basic use case where from the personas you will need to listen and hear to what they need. Then how can a user learn about a new application? It's easy to notice or a new functionality. It's easy to notice in the product. You've done something to promote this new feature. Then it's easy to guess its value. What will this new feature do for me? Which new use cases will I be able to achieve thanks to this new feature? And of course, the flow, the wording, all the controls are made easy to understand and use. Then avoid and recover from error. It needs a lot of guidance so that people don't make errors. I mean, errors considered from the point of view of the system, right? And then a clear and complete message. Error messages are very important when it comes to usability. Then a process. User success means collect information first, design with the users, implement with the personas, we'll see that in a minute. Then you test with users. Then if the tests say it's not ready, it's not cooked enough, you do that again. You redesign, implement, and test, and then you finalize. This is communication with the users all through. You want to ensure success? Well, stay close to the users. And then you can even drink beers with users and with the usability person, and that also helps building the team. So regarding collection of data, this is very important. I've already said that. So do you know the users? Do you know what you should know about the users? Actually, users are humans with a brain, and the brain works for everybody the same way. on this point. You have an attentional focus, you decode information with the filters of your beliefs and memories. Then there's a decision-making that happens to take actions. Then the actions gives you feedback, hopefully. Then with the feedback, you will reinforce beliefs and memories to make better actions the next time. And then it goes back to attentional focus, because the feedback, you get it, and then you do something with the feedback. So we all work the same, and usability strongly relies on this model. We also have something in common, the team who makes the features, the application, and the users. We have goals to achieve. Success is I reached my goals, right? So for example, in a customer support team, you have a member, and there are company goals. We want to expand, we want to please our customers. Then the customer support team has also goals that we can call sub-goals. Answer tickets relevantly and on time, meet the SLAs. Then this member has a few tasks to meet the sub-goals, to meet the goals. And among those tasks, there is pick a ticket from a sorted list. And this is the UI and the experience you want to build. Step by step, task by task, take the users towards its goals. We all have this in common. But then we have things different, right? The personal history of the user, the skills, the gender, whatever, and the environment. This is a very common model in human factors. The activity of a human relates on the parameters of his personality and the parameters of the environment he's working with. And the application, the thing you're building for this human, is only part of this whole system, right? It's in the materials thing. So it's very small. The relationship to the piece of software you're building is very different from you, the maker, and them, the users. So you build a system, they don't. So this is a techno-centered design. I build the system and the user will reach to me to know how to use it, to learn how to use it. And another one is the user-centered design. Well, I know the user, so I will run this path towards the user so that the efforts remaining is very small. So this is Dave. This is our most famous persona. This is what we learned about him while speaking with marketing, with consultants, with customer success, our customer care team, with the sales. Okay, we interviewed, we surveyed, and we gathered information about Dave. We had him a profile. He's not too old, he's 23, I think 25 years old. And this is all we gathered. The skills are very important. We are working with Java, and we assume that people knew Groovy scripts because they know Java, but it's not the case. Our customers, on the scales of 0 to 5, they only know Groovy by 1 or 2. So we cannot all code in Groovy and pretend they're going to understand when we write. So knowing this helps us making good assumptions when we implement features. So collect persona is marketing, sales, customer support, consultants. It's research your networks of professionals, forums. You have an intuition of who the users are. You need to dig into this intuition to get data. And if your users are consumers, go into the streets and offer movie tickets, vouchers, goodies, some special offers on your product to thank people for spending time helping you make the things better for them. You gather questions that are relevant to your applications, and then you create a network of persona. And then each persona. So we have 3 VIPs, our back-end developer working on the processes, in the Eclipse platform. We have our front-end developer, we call Fred. And then we have Sam, the system administrator. So those are our 3 VIPs, but we have 11 personas total, revealed by the questionnaires and the surveys. So now you are developing a new feature. So you need to identify which personas will be targeted with this new feature. Then you gather a panel. That may be the most difficult thing to think you need to do, but it's really easy when you try. Get people that are volunteering to help you towards the development of the feature as the representative of the personas. They give you user acceptance criteria. If a user wants to sort with a specific data, don't give him search, because search is not what they want. If they don't have sort, they will not buy into the feature. So user acceptance criteria. And then work on the use cases of the persona. Then I was talking about a toolbox. Design Studio is really powerful when it comes to UI. You can go over the internet, it's fully described. It's a 1 or 2 hour meeting with marketing, usability person, users, developers, team manager of the developers. And we all doodle the next fun UI about this feature. We go with some iterations, and at the end we agree on what the users and the development team think will be doable in the short amount of time we have. This is really powerful, because then you have mock-ups, better than long specifications, and you can tell a story of the flow of using this new feature. With this, you can run a technical POC, and then you have an agreement of what is feasible, and you can break it down and feed the backlog. So then you need to implement. So then the users are not with you because you're coding and you need some peace, right? So you write your tests, the target for your sprints, and then you code with the mockups, with the personas in mind, with the user acceptance criteria, with the checklist of things you should not forget about making a user successful, and then with the story we have told about using this feature. So all of this has been worked before, and now when you code, when you develop, it's in your mind, or it's on papers, or it's somewhere in the network, and you can still rely on this. And then at feature level, we need to test. You have still made some assumptions. We have made assumptions. And sometimes users think about what they need, but it's not really what they needed. Okay, it's really common pitfall. So you've developed and then you show. We have developed this method that is test at my desk. We have consultants in-house, and they are the first users of our application. Maybe we are lucky. So at some point when the developer thinks he's done with the feature, he just grabs, or makes me grab, someone in the consultant team and sits at the desk, take the mouse. We only tell about the value of the feature. We don't say where it hides, how it's usable, nothing, just the value. So is it easy to notice? Is it understandable? Can you really learn how to use it? It's clear, it's in the eyes of the developer. This is non-negotiable. Either it's a success or it's a fail, and then we have to rework. And then we also have a beta version. Everything has been grouped together, and now we go outside to ask partners and customers to use it extensively, either on a scenario we built to make them go through all the new features, or, and it's even better, when they have their own use cases, because then sometimes we also discover other things about the system that we had not foreseen. And we call it assisted testing session for our customers. They spend 2 hours remotely, because they're in the entire world. They spend 2 hours with us, and a developer, and the product manager, and the usability person. So we are 4 in a room, in a virtual room, and we look at how the customer manages with our system. We also have the documentation site ready, because documentation is part of the usability, and if the product fails as being obvious, maybe documentation can be a fallback. And we use GoToMeeting-like devices to record. We need data, remember? So when you're in front of a video and you see the user getting stuck on something, not finding any way of recovering from an error, or not knowing what to do next, this is really striking. And this is no debate. The feature is not ready to release. It's Boolean, fail. Then you get some time to rework until you go to the really good release you want to provide your customers with. Okay, I should have some more slides. Yes, then you need to finalize. Finalize if maybe you didn't have enough time to make it all in the product, to fix the feature as you wanted because of everything you've seen on the video. Then you write the documentation. So you use the story you have told at the beginning, and you just write in the documentation what's missing in the product to make the user is successful at the end. So you know your limitations, you try to mitigate, and then you release the feature, knowing what may be wrong, but at least you know. So to take away, we can all be part of UX. It's a needed, integrated layer. It's a team purpose, even more when time is short. And we just need to work with data and thresholds, at least for the minimum user experience. So work as a multi-skilled team, including users, aim at providing success and value to the users, never put UX at last, and base decisions on data to avoid the discussions. Okay. So Benjamin Franklin said, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." So I'm sure you guys heroes are good learners. So I hope you will take up the challenge. With the hands raised, I know that some of you already take up the challenge of meeting users and working with users, so it's really good. I have problems with the button. How much time? 5 minutes? I can give you a few examples of this live. I think I go back to my PC. No. Okay, easy to notice. What does it mean? Well, Eclipse does it good. You have a high level of hierarchy and some other levels of hierarchy too. So, yeah, it's all around. You have tabs and you have menus, and this is mostly what people look at when they first open an application, the higher level structure. Then how to catch the attentional focus to make people notice. Where you have nowadays tours, it's mostly a web tool, right? But you have tours. At the beginning, you have tours. It takes you from step to step to understand the basic concepts of the application, what you will only learn by reading the documentation otherwise. But it's here, it's just in front of your eyes, you don't have to look for this, and it's really good. And I know that it's possible in Eclipse, but we haven't managed to make it into the product now. So the tips, we propose to enter a new variable, and as a variable type, in our product, you can create REST API extensions. But it's a hidden feature in the studio. So here, when you most need it, we have a tip promoting the feature. Okay, next. We also embed some guidance here. So usually those wells, as we call them, can be hidden after a while. You don't have to read that again once you understood. But for the first experience, the learning curve, it's important. It has to be short though, and sometimes we make it too verbose, and then, of course, users, they don't really read it. So it's another pitfall not to fall into. We have embedded help as chaptered help to prevent you from going to the documentations. It's already in the product. It's chaptered, it gives you the basics. If you want to learn more or to know about advanced use cases, go to the documentation, it's provided. We love tooltips. We're not quite sure people really look at tooltips at the first time, but when they get stuck, tooltips are there to put them back in the right track, in the happy path of using. And also we can make it short in the description and then provide more content or more examples. If you click on See Examples, then you will have a full range of examples of the API of our system you can use when you want to build some variables. So the first level is very concise, and then you can get more information. We create tutorials. Sometimes concepts are still very thick. So we create tutorials so that people can learn as they do. And how to avoid errors? Well, provide warnings, provide guidance on the expected formats. So we have lots of warnings, and this one is a warning, but it's really too long. It was really essential for us because it prevents data loss, but it's not worded in the right way. So this one is something we need to rework. It's really too much information, although it's important information. So tell the user, but try not to tell too much. So warning, short warning also. warning in Eclipse. We want also to provide validation. Sometimes a user types the wrong thing. He didn't want to type something, but eventually it gets wrong, and we validate for the user. And we try to display the information of the problem as close as the input field as possible. Message of errors, confirmation, give positive feedback. All of this makes the user and the system work together. Is there a problem or is everything going fine? This feedback, this positive feedback is also very important. Sometimes you click on a button and nothing happens, so you click again. Everything was fine, but you didn't know, so you clicked again, and then you introduced a problem in the system. So positive feedback is good. And also to avoid errors, we have default values. You create something, it already has a dummy name. So if you just want to test, it's okay, and you will never have the system in a state of something is missing. And we explain the expected formats. We have tooltips to explain the nature of what's expected, and we have those captions when we say how it should be put into the system. So this is a checklist of what an error message could have. You don't always need to put everything, like maybe the cause is not something useful for an end user that is not technical. Severity, same thing. Consequences, always. Why will I not be able to make because of this problem occurring? And then tell me what to do. Is it contacting my administrator? Okay, it's already something. Or maybe you can provide me with buttons, with options, and explain me clearly what to do with those options. And use the right words for the persona. That's also why it's very important to know your personas, because then you can address them with the right wording. And if it's several personas, you can write the very essential at the beginning and then have more details for the more expert ones, the more technical ones. And also to avoid errors, when we have a problem with a variable, renaming or deleting, of course this, I forgot the name of this. Reformatting of all the code using this variable will be used. So we have modules that Eclipse provides that help us to manage potential error from the users. So then what's negotiable? As I said, efficiency is negotiable. It's still very good to be efficient, but it's negotiable. More advanced use cases can be dealt with in tutorials or documentations. And the graphical woes, yes, it's another job. It's graphical design. And if you can work with graphical designers, it's really great. It's not another constraint. It's a booster for your application. But for us, as the minimum to provide, it's negotiable. Okay, I'm done with the presentation. I would love to hear feedback from you, maybe after the presentation or now as questions. Does it seem very difficult for you to go outside and grab users? Because sometimes it's seen as a very difficult step to perform. It's a matter of not being shy, really, because it works. Yes?
So, I am not really involved in doing graphical user interfaces, so I'm not really concerned with how the user will click and use the UI. But what I'm working on is mainly targeted at other developers using a library via an API, for example. So do most of these concepts, in your opinion, also apply to such field of work, where you mainly provide an API to other developers?
Yeah, well, I had this goal of looking at the usability of the APIs, but it's still not on my plate because we have so much to do elsewhere. But we have worked on other things like the structure of the files that we embed in our bundle. We have a Tomcat bundle for Bonita, and then the structure of the files made it very difficult for people to install, to change the configuration, to restart. So we are working on the structure of the files and the name of the scripts to make it more obvious for people, for Sam, their system administrator, to manage our system. So it's not only UI. We work on CLIs as well, you know, how to prompt, how to interact with a CLI and not do just piles of logs of saying what's going on. So it applies to anything that implies the system and the human, really. Okay, well, thank you. When he was working in Bonitasoft, Antoine, who is here, created T-shirts about the heroic nature of the developers. So I wear one here, and we don't sell them, but we can have some. I have a few here, because yeah, we really think in Bonitasoft that developers are heroes, and it's up to our clothes. Thank you very much.